Okay. Welcome, everyone. It looks like we have participants joining, so I'm going to give it just a minute before we get started so that everyone has a minute to join. I'm also going to share my screen. Okay. It looks like most of our participants have entered, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to our October MFamily conversation. My name is Rachel Egelhoff, and I am the MFamily Program Manager in the Dean of Students Office at U of M, which means that I manage parent and family engagement for the university, and I also participate in critical incident response for students. So we welcome you tonight to this presentation of parent and family wellness and checking in and thriving together. We have our special presenters from Counseling and Psychological Services and Wolverine Wellness who will be talking to you this evening. And I am going to let everyone quickly introduce themselves so that you know who is here and who is talking to you. So Nicole, do you want to go ahead and start?
Sure, thank you. Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all, and thank you for joining us for the first of the MFamily Conversation series for this academic year. I'll turn it over to Saj.
Hi everyone, my name's Saj. I'm the MFamily graduate student intern. So I work with Nicole and Rachel on all things MFamily and happy to be here.
Jim, it looks like you're unmuted. Go for it.
Okay, I'll go for it. Hi, folks. Good evening and welcome. My name is Jim Dolan. I'm a licensed psychologist, and I am the Associate Director for Counseling and Psychological Services, as well as the Clinical Director. I've been at CAPS here at U of M for a little over 10 years, and been working in student affairs for, I don't want to say how long I've been working in student affairs, almost 30 years now. So glad to be here with you tonight.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Girazunas, and I am with Wolverine Wellness. Specifically, my title is Prevention and High Risk Planning Manager, um, which sounds interesting. And it is in all things health promotion. So the majority of my work is focused on health promotion efforts on campus and really thinking about how we partner with other student life units to incorporate well-being in all things that we do on campus. I have been at Wolverine Wellness for about 12 years, but I also did my undergrad and my grad at the university. And so I feel like I've just kind of stayed on for the ride. And I'm really happy to be here with you all.
Thank you all for your introductions. Just a few housekeeping rules. If you have a question tonight, sorry, my computer is going faster than my fingers. If you have a question throughout tonight's presentations, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to ask questions. At the end of the session, once we are done presenting, we will have a Q&A session. Saj will be compiling all of the questions during the webinars. So we ask you to just hold your questions to the end and use the Q&A function. We'll have a very short break between when our speakers are done presenting and when we compile the questions so that we can answer you as best as possible. And then we will be sending out the slides and the questions and answers after our session. So later, either tomorrow or Friday, we will send you the slides and the answers to all of the questions that we cover during the webinar. If there are some questions we don't get to, we will also answer those for you and send them out to you via email. Next is, we just wanted to let you know this conversation is intended to normalize feelings and provide a brief overview of resources and services that are available to your student on campus. Of course, we welcome you to ask questions, but we do want to be respectful of everyone's time and keep this to about an hour. So again, if you have questions, please use the Q&A feature, and we will make sure that we share all of the information with you after the presentation. So if you have any questions or want to take a screenshot, again, we'll be sending these out to you. One way to keep up with us and all of our resources on campus is the MFamily portal. So if you haven't joined already, you can join the portal to get all of your information for parents and families. There's also the Parent and Family website. And if you have any questions that you'd like to email the MFamily program directly, you can email mfamilyprogram@umich.edu. And with that, I am going to hand it over to Christina.
Thanks, Rachel. So this is a great slide to start with as we begin this conversation, and as Jim continues when he starts talking about CAPS as well, is we know that students come to us with a wide range of experiences, but that also means you all come to this conversation with a wide range of experiences. So if you could kind of keep this image in the back of your mind as we start the conversation, is to really be thoughtful that, whatever we are talking about, whether it's around mental health and well-being, whether it's seeking help, whether it's alcohol and other drug use, whether it's sexual health, that we know students come to us with no experience or no exposure, with a little bit of exposure, some exposure, maybe a little bit more than average, and then high levels of exposure. A big part of my job focuses on alcohol and other drug prevention efforts, and our work is really to have a comprehensive approach for that. And so our work really engages in how do we have conversations with students who may not have any experience with alcohol or other drug use, and if they're considering that to be a part of their experience, how do they engage in a way that minimizes harm? If there's students that are coming to us with a higher level of exposure or experience around alcohol and other drugs, what does that mean to them? How do we really help them think about their relationship with it? What are some strategies that they can think about, whether it's who they're engaging with, what their friend groups look like, or their ways to find meaning and purpose on campus look like. And then if there's a higher level of exposure, maybe they are on their way to recovery or already in recovery, and how do we connect them to the right resources? And so that's just one example, but you can insert for alcohol and other drugs any other behavior and what that means. And so to kind of keep that in mind as we're having this conversation today, that it just helps right size kind of the experience that students are having. And so this is another way to normalize how to help your students really think about help-seeking behavior. And we talk about this a lot, that there is no wrong door to walk in, but this might be helpful in terms of an image. We talk about the continuum of care. And so when students are chatting or sharing their experiences on campus, whether it be around stress, sleep, anxiety, connecting with others on campus, and maybe they want some additional kind of help, there's ways that they can explore their well-being and find resources on their own. So we consider that kind of the bottom part where you see on the pyramid. In terms of self-care tools, and we can certainly connect them to that. They can reach out and optimize their well-being through having a one-on-one conversation. So another big part of my role at Wolverine Wellness is wellness coaching. And so to be able to sit down with a student and say, what's important to you? Maybe it's time management. Maybe you want to sit down with someone to really think through a plan, see how that's getting in the way. Maybe it's around a relationship and you want to think about how to make it, maybe there's some conflict there and maybe we can connect to the right resources. And so a one-on-one conversation through wellness coaching. Jim's going to certainly talk more about how to connect with counseling and clinical therapy. So really amplifying that conversation. And then of course there's intensive care, or so receiving care for significant mental health crises. And at any point in time, this is pretty fluid. So though it looks like a pyramid, they can go up and down, and students can come in and out of these resources at any point in time. And so there's no wrong door to walk in, and we will make sure that your students connect to the right resources, but it's also helpful for you to kind of get a better understanding of the tiers of the continuum of care. The other thing I wanted to point out is this collective approach we have around health and well-being and health promotion. So because of the Okanagan Charter, we have now become a health promoting university. And what does this really mean? It means that because we've adopted the Okanagan Charter, we as a University of Michigan, as an institution, and within our individual units, we are committed to embedding health into all aspects of campus culture. So that might be in academic affairs, that might be in programming efforts, that might be in one-on-one conversations or policy. So really knowing that we have health and well-being at the forefront, and we are committed to embedding it in our work. So it's really operationalized. And then second piece of this is to lead with health promotion action and to think about what collaborations we can have. So the link here, you can follow it later. I don't know, Rachel, if we can pull it up because it's nice to see it in real time. Is there a way for us to click on the Wellbeing Collective
Yes.
site? Yeah, it'd be cool if we can walk through it real quick. Because if you take a look and if you go, so you can see on the continuum of care where it says learn more about our option, if scroll down a little bit, sorry. Yeah, so this is where I want to go right here. The tools and resources, view tools and resources. This is one piece of, one on the left is the well-being toolkit. And then the other one is the mental health care continuum. And so if you click on each one and then scroll down a little bit, this is a wonderful resource. So you can input kind of which dimension of well-being do I want to explore on the left, and you can pick and choose and see what's available. This is available to students as well. And then if we go back up to the continuum of care, you can scroll down and also see what do the resources look like in terms of policies, in terms of education, promotion, and outreach, what's available to students, more supportive tools or units, outpatient, and then of course, if we get to that more intensive care, what's available, right? And so I like showing it whenever we have a presentation because it's easy to just talk about, but if you see how easily accessible the resources are or where you can learn more, it makes it more user-friendly and maybe you'd be more connected to finding the things that you need. Or your students need. So this would be a great resource to share with them as well. So that's our commitment to being a health promoting university. Briefly touched on this, but philosophically, we think about well-being as a comprehensive approach, right? And so these are interdependent dimensions that work together. And so often at the University of Michigan, we say, we ask students or even parents, right? What does success mean? And a marker is often academic success. And we know that there are many other areas of a student's life that can foster success or can impact that success. And so how can you help your students really think about how they can incorporate their well-being as a part of their success? And maybe there's moments in their academic career where one of these dimensions is a little bit stronger than one of the other ones, and they would want to talk about it more. This is actually a nice kind of dynamic tool to also use as a conversation starter with each other. So just kind of what your student thinks about spiritual well-being or what it means to you. What do they think about when they think about environmental well-being or financial well-being or emotional and mental, physical, social, etc. And then again, if you map it out with that well-being collective website where you can connect these dimensions to resources, it makes for a really good discussion. So a little bit more granular at Wolverine Wellness, what do we offer and how can you help your students get connected to this? Um, Now I wanted to highlight the student life wellness zones, though it's under Wolverine Wellness, this is a student life resource that we are all committed to promoting. And so the wellness zones are a space where students can go unwind, can relax. There's massage chairs. There's one located on North Campus and one located on Central. And then it fits in really greatly with our Pause and Relax program, which is a therapy dog program. I'll show pictures of our therapy dogs that visit once a week, and they do the visits at the wellness zone. So it's a great place for students to connect, and especially if they're missing a furry friend from home. I've personally watched organic relationships come out of students repeatedly coming at the Pause and Relax and coming to visit Hawkeye, our wellness dog. And then because they're going repeatedly, they're making friends, they're connecting in that moment and saying, hey, actually, do you want to hang out outside of this space? And so it's also a really great way to meet others. Wellness coaching, I briefly talked about already, and you saw it in that pyramid. We have wellness coaching, both group and one-on-one sessions, but really focused on students' values and strengths and priorities. So whatever their goals are and helping them achieve that. We have our CRP program, our Collegiate Recovery Program, which is a wonderful community that helps students have an authentic college experience free from any substance use, harm and connection and being able to build connection. We have a series of campaigns, and you'll see the pictures on the right of our campaigns. These are harm reduction campaigns mostly. So if, for example, students are choosing to drink, then how do they do so in a way where they're getting all the things they want without the things they don't want? And so that's our Stay in the Blue campaign, encouraging folks who do choose to drink to stay at a 0.06 or below blood alcohol content. And then non-drinkers are always in the blue because we know that thousands of U of M students choose not to drink for a wide range of reasons, whether it's religious reasons, whether it's medical reasons, family history, or choosing to wait until they're 21. So Stay in the Blue is a wonderful campaign. It also shares a lot of strategies. I'm going to do a shameless plug. Rachel, I'm going to include a link later since these slides are going to go out to folks. But we just updated our Stay in the Blue app where it helps students really think about planning ahead, how to track their drinks or in real life. And students often come into our office for free swag. So we have sleep kits, t-shirts, safer sex items, Narcan, and then nicotine replaced products, but that is in connection with coaching. You may remember our online courses. And so I think as you think, the reason we put this slide on here is really a connection point now later in the semester. It's an opportunity to refer back to these online courses and say, what, if anything, do you remember from Alcohol EDU? Or what stood out from you for the mental well-being for students course that you feel like you're implementing now, or maybe you would want to learn more about? Similarly for the sexual assault prevention for undergrads courses. And so just an opportunity to link back to it in terms of helping dose messages. Shout out to Hawkeye and his buddy Sherlock, just in case you weren't already convinced that it's a great place to go or encourage your students to go. They are located at the wellness zones on Wednesdays from 1 to 2:30, and students can check out sessions for that. And so as I wrap up my section, these are just some recommendations for having those important conversations and what we have found is helpful as we partner in supporting your students' well-being, but also your own well-being, right? Being able to kind of help craft those conversations. So being specific about what your family expectations are for college. And so what does that mean if they're choosing, is it abstaining or drinking moderately? And if so, how to do that, maybe using one of those strategies from the San Lou campaign, how they can make informed choices about sexuality, eating patterns, financial responsibility. And again, if you think back to that continuum of the spectrum of experiences, knowing that your students are connecting with others that have a completely different approach to many of these topics. And so really helping them think through those choices and how it's important to them, asking questions and being prepared for the answers, right? And so how can you create a space that's non-judgmental? And keeping the communication lines open. We know that you are still their number one resource. How to connect values and also being comfortable in knowing that these change over time as your student learns and grows, and having that space to um, talk about the values that exist maybe in the family, or what the student has reflected for their time on campus, or even coming to campus and now 6 weeks later, or at the end of fall semester, how do they reflect on their own values? These are some suggested open-ended questions. I know I'm coming close to my time, but I really want to shout out um, the second bullet. So especially as we know this upcoming weekend is the big game between Michigan State. It's also a high energy time with fall festivities or any Halloween um, parties or whatever that looks like for your student. There are so many ways to connect on campus that don't focus on um, one narrative, which might be alcohol. And it's helpful to have those conversations, right? And so, what are your plans for the weekend, or what are your plans for a birthday? What are your plans for the big game? How are you planning on connecting? Who's going to be there? Are great questions to ask that go beyond those academic questions. Again, as we were looking at that model of well-being, that um, well-being is made up of many different facets. And so how to be able to create space for students to connect with you on that. And then many of these other open-ended questions that may help start the conversation around what resources students need, or how they cope, or how you can help them cultivate that help-seeking behavior, or find how they're connecting on campus. So I'm not going to go into each question since these slides are going to be available, but really thinking about those opportunities to ask questions beyond academics.
Thank you, Christina. I am going to transition, and we're going to bring Jim back on.
Okay, hopefully everybody can see and hear me. Thank you, Christina. I want to emphasize one of the things that she talked
I'm
about.
sorry. Jim, I'm sorry. We don't see you. We hear you.
Okay, let's. How about now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, my laptop's been switching. It's anyhow, it's weird. You folks don't need to know. Hey, you know what? Before I get into things, I'm going to do the counselor thing here. Let's everybody, as you are able to, let's just all kind of reach up and stretch a little bit. Maybe wave our hands. Take a breath in and out, and kind of relax those shoulders back down. I'm imagining many of us that are here tonight have been staring at screens for a long time today. So it's always good to make sure you take a little break. Um, I want to thank Christina for what she was talking, really emphasizing the continuum of care that we have for students here at U of M. It's something that is continuously present, continuously evolving, and we're responding continuously to the new challenges and new expectations that students have. So even if you go to these websites that Christina pointed out, they might look different because again, we're constantly trying to meet students where they're at so that we're making sure that we are providing them with the support and the services that they need, which can be sometimes a bit of a moving target. So many of you may have attended a CAPS session over the summer during orientation. We're way past the midpoint of the fall semester now, so it might be helpful to recap some information that you've heard. This might be new for some folks. Your students' transition to college may be going as expected, or maybe not so much. And your feelings about your students starting college and their transition also may be as expected or likely have changed. Whatever you're feeling, please know that all the feelings are valid and likely shared by many of those that are here tonight. I think we can all agree that when it comes to focus to students starting school, that there's a big difference between theory and what you think is going to happen in practice, what actually might happen. But let's talk about some of the common challenges to transitioning in the first year that might be helpful for you. I think one of the things that's on everybody's mind right now is kind of the state of the world. There's many conflicts going on around the world. We have a big election coming up. And so those are examples of some of the environmental kinds of concerns, the things that are happening around students that can make a transition kind of challenging. So that might add to this adjustment period and add to some of the stress that they're experiencing. It might also be your students' first experience living on their own. And this involves, leaving behind family and friends, community, familiar surroundings. For getting ready to leave can also be a very exciting time. The first few weeks of transition, can still be, kind of a honeymoon period, if you will, with a lot of things going on. There can be a lot of excitement. People can be feeling sad, feeling anxious. All these feelings can be going on at once. And that's actually a particular challenge to many students, understanding that I can be feeling different things at the same time. I can be excited to be away from home, but I can be sad to have left my home at the same time. And so that's important to help them to understand that, whatever they're feeling is valid. And you can have mixed feelings. And that can be a particular challenge for folks in a traditional college age group. Um, eh, so this idea that they might be missing their familiar surroundings, this can be felt sooner by some students than others might be experiencing it later. We hope that U of M will become, if you will, a new home base in many ways. But students are going to be facing the challenge of navigating a new environment, discovering new resources and people on campus. And it might take some time to become familiar and to contribute to U of M being a sense of a home or a home away from home, if you will. There are also lifestyle and routine adjustments that go on for students. Coming from high school to college is a big challenge. High school is usually a very structured lifestyle with a lot of routines. Students can be challenged with the freedom that they experience at college. Some can get really excited about it. For others, though, they need their routines. And so that can also be one way parents can be helpful in reminding students of what routines might have been helpful in making them successful in high school that could translate well into the college environment as well. One of the bigger challenges for folks is their new living arrangements. They might not only may be on their own for the first time, they might be sharing space with somebody for the first time. And so that can be challenging too, as students learn to kind of, relate and negotiate and figure out how to share space. So that can contribute to some of the stress of the transition. There's also interpersonal adjustments, making new friends, making new connections. Some students come to campus with an intact friend group, actually, or folks that they know from high school. Some have family members here. I have three nieces at that school up the road whose colors are green and white. But there's a cousins group of like 8 cousins that are there at the same time. And so that wasn't planned, it just kind of happened, but that's been nice to with them in aiding in their transition. Some students come to U of M totally on their own. They don't know people, they don't have any friends, they don't have any family coming with them, and so that can be very stressful, but also very exciting as they explore new opportunities to meet people and connect in new ways and kind of find their niche here. Um, a common thing that happens with students related to the academic pressures is, so all of your students that have come to U of M have been successful. Many of them, might have been top of their class or in the top part of their class. Um, Now they're at U of M and they're finding themselves, rather than a big fish in a small pond, a big fish in a very large pond. And this can be super challenging for students as they try and kind of renegotiate, where they stand academically in regards to with other students. We get this a lot actually at the counseling center when students are coming in with academic stress. A lot of it has to do with what we call social comparison. Students just are apt to compare themselves to each other. That's a normal human thing, particularly if we think about it from a developmental perspective, as folks are transitioning into adulthood. It's helpful in some ways to be observant about what your peers are doing and how they're doing it and what their successes are. For some students, that can be really stressful, where they kind of, have to kind of re-stratify themselves in terms of, where they are academically, discover their particular strengths and challenges and how to figure out how to address some of those challenges. You're also likely going through some transition too. I'm sure that there are parents here who have had children go off to school before. For some of you, this is a first time experience. For all of you, it can be a very exciting time, but it can be very trying as well. Parents, guardians, family members, you all have fears and concerns about your students' success that are quite normal. You might fear that sometimes the cultural and family values you've worked really hard to instill in your student may be lost or diluted. Um, that's a normal fear, but it's also part of the college experience too, as students kind of figure out, who they are and how they want to be in this world. That's not always an easy process for the student or for their family, but again, that's part of the normal adjustment to college. You might also have some fears that culture and family that you might losing the relationship you had with your student as they become more autonomous. Again, that's a very natural part of this phase of life. As again, the students are transitioning from into young adulthood and kind of figuring out, how to take care of themselves, how to meet the challenges and opportunities of being on their own, yet still having this supportive network of family and friends and all the things that we do here at U of M to support students as well. And they're going to learn. They're going to learn how to negotiate the challenges, to take advantage of the opportunities, and they've got a lot of help along the way. So let's talk a little bit about that help. Excuse me. So one of the things that we'd like to advise is to trust your parenting. Your students have gotten to U of M, so something's worked. Something's gone right here. You worked hard to get your student here, and they'll continue to need your support to be successful here as well. They're also going to need to be supported in finding their independence, particularly around decision making. Again, this is a very important developmental age for folks, and they need to face challenges. Actually, as we grow into adults, it's important for us all to encounter challenges and learn how to negotiate those challenges. That doesn't mean we have to do it unsupported, but the way that you support your students may change. The way that they need you may change. And you're going to have to anticipate some ups and downs with that relationship. I think what's really important here is to know that there's going to be perhaps some ups and downs, that all feelings are legitimate. And it's going to sound trite coming from a counselor, right? But communication really is the key to negotiating changes and challenges. It's important to discuss realistic expectations, and expectations might change along the way. Again, one of the things that we often encounter in our work at the counseling center are students who came to UM thinking they're going to be an engineer and suddenly find out that they're really interested in art history. And so not only are those expectations changing for them, but how to negotiate that change in expectations with parents can also be challenging. I'm a little traditional in some of my views about education, but I really do believe it's one of the higher education. It's one of the last best places for folks to discover themselves and their interests, and again, who they are and how they want to be in the world. Um, and I think we all have a part to play in helping them become who they're going to become. I mentioned social comparison a little earlier. That might be something in your conversations with students that you can pay attention to. If they're doing a lot of negative comparison with other folks, help them turn that perspective around, help them understand, where their successes are. And it's fine to have some challenges and opportunities or look for change. And then maybe connect them with some of the services that might help them figure those things out, whether it be Wolverine Wellness or the Counseling Center. Christina was right there. There really is no wrong door. Um, there are a lot of resources at the university, which can be a little overwhelming or confusing to students from time to time. But we all know how to work together to get students to the folks that can help them best. So, talk briefly about what we can do at CAPS. CAPS is the primary mental health resource for students on campus. We provide, excuse me, we provide, sorry, we provide, sorry, I'm going to lose my voice here. Uh, we provide brief solution-focused therapy for students, individual counseling, relationship counseling, group counseling, targeted workshops. Um, our services are only available to currently enrolled students. And our staff is comprised of a really diverse group of generalist clinicians that are well versed in addressing college student mental health. We're kind of the experts on college student mental health, and we can address any concern that this student comes in with. Sometimes those concerns can be addressed at CAPS. Sometimes we have to connect students with resources outside of the university. We are not able to provide, for instance, long-term counseling. As you can imagine, a lot of students want to come in through CAPS. We saw almost 5,000 students last year. And so we do our best to meet with every student and help make good decisions on what the best next steps for them might be. So some more information about what CAPS can do can be found on our website. It's a pretty comprehensive website, caps.umich.edu. And there is a parent section there as well that could be helpful to you. You know what? I think I'm going to pause right there. And yeah, I'll leave it to the Q&A if folks have any more questions about transition or services that CAPS can provide.
Great. Thank you, Jim. And thank you, Christina, again. I'm going to stop sharing at this point and see if we have any questions and answers. If you do have any questions, please feel free to add them to the Q&A section on Zoom, and we can do our best to answer them. Again, if there are any that we don't get to tonight, we will be sending out by email the questions and answers for you. Okay. So Nicole and Saj are going to help facilitate the Q&A piece.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And really, there's still time if people would like to submit more questions or if something comes to mind as questions are being answered, just put them in the Q&A feature and we'll address them live. The first question that I have, I'll ask Dr. Dolan if you will answer. A person asked about emergency room access at the university, and though we know that Michigan Medicine is right around the corner and is a part of the campus, it's campus adjacent. Can you talk a little bit about emergency services for students, including psychiatric emergency care?
Sure. Happy happy to do that. Um, so we have many different ways that students can access urgent care when they have an immediate need or a crisis. CAPS offers what's called the Counselor on Duty program. So we have a counselor on duty available whenever CAPS is open. We also have an after-hour service so that anytime CAPS is closed, students just have to call the number, which is actually on the back of their M card, and they will be prompted to press 0, and that will connect them with an after-hours counselor. Um, um, they can also, I know at UHS, they can walk into our health service and receive crisis services as well through the social workers there. We are very fortunate to have psychiatric emergency services at U of M Hospital. And they are, of course, available 24/7 to deal with higher level care. Sometimes we do work with students who come to CAPS to see the counselor on duty, and they might require a more immediate or more or higher level of care than we are able to provide. And so we will ensure that we get students to the psychiatric emergency services to receive that care. We have a great partnership with them.
Thank you. And again, the psychiatric emergency services at Michigan Medicine, which is right adjacent to Central Campus, between Central Campus and North Campus. That question asked about whether or not the university has plans to create an emergency room service on campus. But generally, the Michigan Medicine Hospital System and Michigan Medicine main location is considered to be campus. So students can get there easier than other emergency rooms or hospitals in town, and it's closer to Central Campus than urgent cares and other facilities. So thank you, Dr. Dolan. The next question, I'll put this one for Christina. How do students sign up for wellness coaching? Can you revisit that for everyone, please?
Of course. So we have our site online, and so if students go to wolverinewellness.umich.edu, they can sign up from there. And so they'll look at the various wellness coaches available and their times. And so there's also wellness coaches bios, wellness coaching bios. And so it's also a great way for students to take a look and say, oh, this looks like somebody I'd like to talk to or not, or maybe they're more interested in that and someone's, they connect somehow with their bio. But it's online, wolverinewellness.umich.edu. And if that doesn't work, there's a way to connect with us through the request form there as well. That goes directly to our admin assistant.
And I just added the site, the wolverinewellness.umich.edu, in the chat for everyone as well.
Thank you. Thank you both. Someone asked about sleep kits. Has that been a topic that, Christina, thank you.
I
Would
can
you like
do
to
it.
elaborate on sleep kits?
I can take that. They are so popular. So sleep kits are a great way for us to have a conversation with students about often what gets in the way with better sleep, or what their goals are for sleep. And so the sleep kits have earbuds, tea, masks, and then some like sleep hygiene tips in there, but those are also available at Wolverine Wellness.
I'm just going to add on a little bit about sleep, which actually is the number one, the the number one psychological and medical concern really that affects students. Sleep is the first thing that students will sacrifice, both for academics and non-academic activities. But I think we all know that sleep is probably one of the most important factors to maintain our regular functioning. And so I would encourage you as parents, to remind students that a good sleep routine is important. We do a lot of sleep work at CAPS as well. We also highly utilize wellness coaching. There is a sleep clinic that's available for students to go to that have more challenging needs. But certainly we deal with sleep. It's a significant issue.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
I'm gonna add one more
Okay.
thing. So,
Yeah.
and maybe Rachel, you can drop it in the chat too. But I talked about our campaigns, and one of our campaigns is also the snooze campaign, which is another great entry point to have a conversation with students around what is most important to them around their sleep patterns. And so they will also see that, I mean, in terms of dosing messaging, they'll see the snooze campaign across campus.
And I'm going to add one more thing about sleep because it is so important. It is also normal for some folks for their sleep cycles to just kind of flip-flop. At this age, it's very normal to be more active in nighttime hours than it is in daytime hours, and that can pose a particular challenge since classes are happening mostly during the day. But that's a very normal switch that happens for some folks. And again, there are strategies that we can help students who are experiencing that challenge. There are strategies that we can use to use to help them to make some adjustments or to make some find some good helping strategies around sleep.
Thank you. And it's great to have information from both of our experts tonight. And someone asked the question, which I think is a great question. What is the difference? How do people differentiate students going for wellness coaching versus going to a CAPS therapy session?
I can tackle that. Um, so again, I'm going to emphasize that there's really no wrong door to get into. If somebody comes to Wolverine Wellness and our colleagues over there sense that there might be something deeper going on for them, they'll connect them at CAPS. We'll do the same thing at CAPS if we think it's something that doesn't really need counselor's intervention, but they might benefit from wellness coaching. We'll make that connection. Sometimes they do both. But for me, really, when we talk about a concern that requires a counselor or psychotherapy intervention, it's when that concern is interfering or impeding with everyday functioning or academic functioning. Right. So if something is going on, so it's normal for us to have a low mood. I don't, I bet if I asked everybody to raise their hand who's had experienced a low mood, everybody would, right? That's a normal part of being human. But it's when that low mood might persist for several weeks or it starts to impede with their normal everyday functions or their academic functions that you might need a higher level of intervention. So that's one way we might differentiate between, what is a concern that can be addressed through counseling or what can be addressed through wellness coaching. I can tell you though that students can come talk to CAPS counselors about whatever they want to. All right. We will work with them on any concern that they have. And then we will work with your student to decide, what is the appropriate level of support or how long that support might need to go on. We get a lot of students who come in, are sometimes one and done with an appointment with a counselor. We're able to provide them with the guidance or the information they need to really help them. Some of that is connecting them with our great colleagues and Dean of Students or Wolverine Wellness or University Health Service. So I would say it really doesn't matter where they go. We're going to get them what they need and get them to where they need.
Thank you for that. I think in the interest of time, we may be able to go through one or two more questions. And for those folks who submitted questions that we might not get to answer live, please do watch for the follow-up emails that will share answers to questions that you've submitted. But I'd like to ask both Jim and Christina, if you'd like to talk, if you would each talk about what the intake, consultation, and scheduling processes look like for Wolverine Wellness first, and then for CAPS. And the person is asking about the initial consultation and the time frame it takes to go from kind of intake or consultation to appointments.
Sure. So the intake process is different for CAPS and for wellness coaching. And so in terms of wellness coaching, a student will look online, identify a date that they're able to attend, make the appointment, and in that process be asked to complete some intake paperwork, which is depending on what they're coming in for. So, for example, an alcohol and other drug related visit will take a look at their alcohol and marijuana use or cannabis use. So we use a tool, the QDIT or the audit. And then all of our intake work also uses the PHQ-9, which screens for um, any mental health concerns and in particular any suicidal ideation as well. So um, we use those as our intake paperwork, and then once that's completed, their wellness coach will review it with them upon their first visit.
So for CAPS, for students who are seeking services at CAPS, they would first have an initial consultation with one of our initial access specialists. These can be scheduled online from our website. There's a big button on the front page that says schedule an appointment, and if they click on that, they'll be taken to the appropriate link to schedule. They are asked to complete a few forms. All of which are voluntary information that we collect, except for our informed consent forms, which require them to read through and be signed in order for us to provide services, because we are providing professional and confidential services at CAPS. And then students are offered choices of appointments online there. They can schedule an appointment online or for a virtual appointment, or they are prompted to call into our office if they're looking to meet in person. Our initial consultation is designed to be a brief appointment. It's designed to be a 20 to 30-minute appointment with students to better understand what their presenting concerns are, and then make kind of a collaborative decision about what the best next step for them could be. Sometimes it might not be counseling. It could be it could be counseling at CAPS. It could be going to a group at CAPS. It could be one of our workshops we offer. It could be connecting with one of our partners, like wellness coaching. It could be connecting with specialists or providers in the community to address their concerns. All the folks who do the initial access work are very well trained in listening and hearing what student concerns are and helping support making the best decision for them. You typically an initial access appointment is available, between 1 and 10 days, depending on the student's schedule. Once they've had the initial consultation, if they're coming into CAPS, it could be at this point in time, it could be 2 to 3 weeks before we're able to get them in to see a counselor for a follow-up appointment. Again, there's a range there because a lot of times it varies on student availability. We might have availability that doesn't match with the student, and so sometimes that can be a little bit of a challenge too. We also have, in addition to our counselors at CAP Central, which is located in the Michigan Union, we have CAPS embedded counselors in the schools and colleges. And students also have an option to schedule with the embedded counselor in their school and college. Again, given where we are in the semester, we are always hoping to get students in as soon as possible for that initial consultation.
Thank you both so much. I will close out the Q&A segment and just again reiterate that for those questions that we did not directly answer in this live session, they will be answered and shared as a follow-up by email. I also want to encourage any parents, families, supporters who are with us tonight who have very specific and maybe time-sensitive concerns about their students' mental health or well-being. Please contact the Dean of Students' office and we'll be happy to help make some connections for your student, or talk with you more about campus resources and ways in which your student may be willing to engage or be ready to engage with your help and with ours. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Rachel.
Thank you, Nicole. Just so everyone knows, I did drop the Dean of Students website information into the chat. So it's deanofstudents.umich.edu. And even if that doesn't seem like the right place to start, like Jim and Christina both said, we are happy to connect with each other to get your student to the right place. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us or any unit, and we will make sure to help guide your student in the right direction. So with that, we want to be respectful of everyone's time, and we appreciate you all coming tonight. We thank you so much for attending and to our presenters for presenting, and we will follow up with you soon. So please be watching for that email in your inbox. Have a great night, everyone.